Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto severs all ties with Konoha harem. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by XXVI and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. 9 Sides of a Mask. Chapter 1. The Death of Naruto Uzumaki. Sasuke, why won't you listen to me? You are like a brother to me. Shut up Naruto. You never knew what it's like to have a family and then all of it taken away from you. You're right. I don't know how that feels, maybe if I had a family then I could at least relate to how you feel, however don't think for a second that I've had it easy just because I don't have a family. So, please come back Sasuke, otherwise I'll break every bone in your body and drag you back if I have to. Stated Naruto. Like a dope like you could anyway. Finished Sasuke as the sound of 1,000 birds started screeching from the tip of his fingers and a blue and silver lightning started to fly off his fingertips. Naruto sighed. Yes, there's no other way. Finished Naruto as a bright blue chakra ball, enveloped in malevolent red chakra, began to glow on the palm of Naruto's hand. Naruto and Sasuke ran straight at each other at speed, then can't be seen by normal eyes. Chidori. Rasengan shouted both Sasuke and Naruto, and then when the two powerful jutsus clashed, there was a bright flash before the giant explosion. But the explosion consumed the Valley of the End, also the location where Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha's final battle took place. The irony of it, generations later another Uchiha and a distant relative if the Senju battles here again, except this one battle is going to change fate and will go down in history just like Madara and Hashirama final battle. Konoha. It was raining heavily in Konoha. The usually bright village seemed dull and sad, with the grey clouds forbidding any sunlight. At the gates of Konoha were the eternal guards Izumo Kamizuki and his partner Kotetsu Hagane. Usually they would be bored and just be talking to each other, however that wasn't the case this time. Earlier the two guards had seen Shikamaru Nara, Kiba Inuzuka, Choji Akimichi and Niji Hyuga all pass by, going straight to the hospital because of the state they were in. All of them were severely injured, especially Choji who was currently in a life or death situation. They were currently awaiting the return of Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. They had known about Sasuke running away from the village and the retrieval squad sent out by the Godame Hokage Tsunade Senju. The team was led by the newly appointed Chunin. Shikamaru Nara. As they looked past the main gate they could see a small figure with what appeared like another figure in its shoulder. As the figure came towards the gate they could see the orange color growing bigger and bigger until Naruto stood at the gate with a victorious smile and one battered Uchiha on his shoulders. Izumo, Kotetsu I made it, and with that Naruto's world went black as he fell backwards, along with Sasuke who also fell with Naruto. Izumo and Kotetsu just stared at each other blankly before picking up Naruto and Sasuke, then rushing to the hospital. Konoha Hospital. After regaining consciousness Naruto started to slowly open his eyes. He opened his eyes as the bright sunlight coming through the window tried to blind him. The first thing he noticed when he opened his eyes were the white walls that completely surrounded him. There was a small and simple white table. On the table was a simple brown vase with an assortment of flowers, however the flowers was withered and dead. The window was opened as was the curtains and he could hear the birds chirping as well as the citizens of Konoha talking whilst getting on with their everyday life. He then realized that he had to be in a hospital room. He hated coming to the hospital, not that he came here much anyway due to the Kyuubi's rapid healing. But when he did come here he wasn't very welcome and the nurses or doctors never looked after him properly. He knew that any moment now a doctor or nurse will come and ask him to leave because he is not injured anymore. So why wait for them to ask him to leave? Naruto slowly got up from the bed whilst clutching his chest, where he could feel the bandages covering up the scar left by his friend who plunged a Chidori through his chest, inches away from a deadly blow to his heart. Speaking of Sasuke, he wondered how he was doing. Was he also in the hospital? If so then he should visit him to see how he was doing, maybe that might not be a bright idea. After all Sasuke was hospitalized because of him so he will most likely be angry at him. So Naruto just decided to go outside instead. Naruto made his way to the door and went to open it, but before he could open it, the door opened and in came Sakura. He was happy to see Sakura. Sakura was Naruto's childhood crush. Naruto always asked out Sakura, but she did not accept and always punched Naruto or any other form of abuse. Now that he thinks about it, she was never kind to him and always trying to impress the last Uchiha. When he looked at Sakura, all he can see in her face is rage. Hey Sakura, I told you I'll bring back Sasuke. However Sakura didn't seem to be paying attention to what he was saying. He opens his mouth to say another word but. Slap. The noise of hand meeting cheek was audible and echoed through the tiny white room. The slap Sakura gave left Naruto with a reddening cheek. Sakura. Slap. Shut up Naruto. Look at what you did to Sasuke. You said that you will bring him back safely and promised on that too, have you seen what you did to him? Lady Tsunade said he had marks of Rasengan on his stomach. I knew I shouldn't have trust you, you probably tried to kill him and thought if he died, I would finally go on a date with you. Now I know I should have trusted my mum, you are a demon after all. Now don't ever talk to me or Sasuke again, I hope I never have to see your face again. Said Sakura angrily, then before Naruto could even reply she stormed out of the room. Probably to see her Sasuke-kun. Normally Naruto wouldn't cry, he had gotten over those years ago. Yet warm tears started to roll down his eyes. Every word Sakura had said hurt, it hurt more than a Chidori getting shoved through the heart, that's how each word hit him. That was the breaking point for Naruto. Naruto fell on his knees and then fell backwards and clutched his knees, putting him in a human ball position. He then began to think about things, then think them over again. Why can't anyone tell the difference between a kunai and a scroll? Will I ever be acknowledged here? How can I become the Hokage if everyone thinks I'm a demon, even my teammates think I'm a demon? Then the final thought. Am I really a demon? After 10 minutes, which seemed like hours through the eyes of Naruto, he began to get up, slowly recovering from the human ball position. After getting up he decides to go to Ichiraku's ramen, the only place that sees him like a human and treats him like a normal person. Some ramen will cheer him up, right? After all it has for the last 13 years. But before he gets the chance to leave the room he is interrupted once again, only this time it's by an otter mask Anbu. Naruto Uzumaki, you are requested by the Hokage to attend the council immediately. Said the Anbu, in what seemed like a voice to intimidate people. Naruto slowly nods his head because he still hasn't recovered from Sakura's verbal beating. Konoha Council Chambers. Naruto and the otter-masked Anbu walked down the corridor leading to a large wooden door that seemed ancient, yet it looked strong enough to survive an exploding tag, after all it was made by the first Hokage using his wood release. They then entered into the council room and he could see a large round table. Along the right side he could see the Shinobi Council, who is the clan heads of the current major clans, which consisted of Hiashi Hyuga, Shikaku Nara, Choza Akimichi, Inoichi Yamanaka, Shibi Aburam, and lastly Tsumin Yuzuka. He also noticed several empty seats in that line, which he guessed belonged to the clans that is now dead or has no representative like Uchiha, Sarutobi, Senju and Namikaze. Along the left side is the Civilian Council, he remembered some of them as the wealthy merchants in Konoha. Along the left side sat Kinsaku Chashi, Shibuki Haruno, Geiho Hiro, Tashi Nanami, Tai Yamato and Tuchi Saki. So overall there were 6 civilian members and 6 shinobi members, there were also the 3 elders who sat in the middle opposite to the Slug Princess. The 3 elders were Hamura Midokado, Kaharu Utatane who was both Hiruzen Sarutobi's, Sandaime Hokage, teammates. The last of the elder is Danzo Shimura, also known as Shinobi no Yami, the Shinobi of Darkness. The reason for this is because the old Warhawk is always acting from the shadows. One such example is the Root program, which was disbanded once the Sandaime heard of the training in the program, which turns young boys and girls into mindless drones that you call Shinobi. His aim was to turn the Kyuubi Jinchuriki into a mindless puppet that obeys him only, but the Sandaime prevented that from happening. He soon realized that his wish can never come true now that Naruto is not as young as he wanted him to be. Across the table was the Goddamn Hokage, Tsunade Senju. A powerful kunoichi in her own rights, she is one of the 3 legendary Sanins and also the first ever female Hokage, maybe even the first ever Kage of one of the 5 major elemental countries. Many young kunoichi and some shinobi look up to her as an idol. She is also the world's best medic, with the help of Kitsayu, she can heal an entire army if not distracted. Otter, thanks for your service, you may leave now. Said Tsunade. Now can you tell me why this council asked for Naruto to be here, the reports was already given in by Shikamaru. Said Tsunade again in a pissed off tone. Beyond yes I want to know that too, I have my cloud watching to get to with Shikamaru said, guess who, Shikaku, the lazy Nara, which seems to run through the family. Although it isn't the same reason as Shikaku, I would like to know as well, Choji is still in the hospital and I want to go visit my son. Said the big-boned Akimichi, Choza. The reason is quite simple really, it's about the battle between Uchiha-sama and the demons stood in front of us today. Said Geiho, a fat wealthy merchant who bought himself into the council, and like many people he lost his wife and 2 children in the Kyuubi attack 13 years ago, so he still blames Naruto for this. The air suddenly dropped below 0 degrees and all attention fell towards Tsunade. The last time I checked, the Sandaime's law is still in place, so unless you want to spend some time with Ibiki and Anko, I suggest following the laws. Said an even more pissed off Tsunade. Hi Hokage-sama. Said the man fearfully. Everyone knew who Ibiki was, heck even shinobi from outside of Konoha knew him, his reputation as the mind destroyer can easily scare anyone. He can get an enemy shinobi to spill secrets with 1 hour. And his new assistant doesn't exactly keep anyone calm. The snake mistress of Konoha is always looking for a way to spill some blood, so her job at the torture and interrogation department suits her the best. With Ibiki and Anko together they can easily break anyone, be it mentally or physically. Enough of this, we called this council meeting because Uchiha-sama reported that Naruto accessed the Kyuubi's chakra and tried to kill him. Said Kaharu. How is that a big deal, knowing Sasuke probably used the cursed mark and tried to kill Naruto? There is scars on Naruto's chest that can only be made with a Chidori, and not only that, but there is 2 of that. Said Tsunade, clearly not happy with the way the council is going right now. But that's because of the cursed mark, Uchiha-sama can't control his mind with that, it was even reported by Jiraiya-sama when he took a look at the seal before the Chunin exams. Said Kinsaku. That doesn't mean he didn't have control at all. Jiraiya-sama put a 4-point suppression seal on the cursed mark, and the only way it can be broken is if Sasuke decides to use the cursed mark. Said Shikaku this time, clearly not in his bored and sleepy mode and in full serious, because he could feel there is more to this than it seems. Like the civilians have already planned something and it's not going to end well. But that does not change the fact that thing there used the Kyuubi's chakra and it could just be the beginning, the Kyuubi may start to break free. I think there is only one solution to this, contributed Danzo, and the whole council had been paying attention to this, as it isn't every day the old warhawk suggests something unless it's for his own gain. We banish him from Konoha. Finished Danzo calmly, like it's an everyday thing. That must have been the spark that ignited the flame, because the whole council was in an argument of whether to banish him or not. Even the always stoic Hiashi Hyuga tried to say they shouldn't banish Naruto. However, the person who was affected by this more than anyone was Naruto. It felt like they had taken the air out of the room because suddenly he found it hard to even breathe. His whole life he had wanted nothing more than to become the Hokage, but now it won't happen. All because the village was too stupid to tell the difference between a kunai and the scroll it sealed in. Silence! Shouted the slug princess. Suddenly everyone's attention fell to her. We are not banishing Naruto, and that's final. We can actually banish him, said Danzo with a knowing smirk. However, Tsunade didn't like where this is going at all, and Danzo's smirk didn't make it any better, especially since he is a man that shows no emotions. The law made by Nidaime allows the council to overrule a Hokage's decision if said council had majority of the votes. That's a lie, you're lying. Said Tsunade, although the words were to convince herself. I'm not lying. So now I call for a vote. How wishes to banish Naruto, Uzumaki, Danzo said bitterly. Ever since he didn't get to train him he had despised a boy. It didn't help that he also followed the will of fire crap Hiruzen always went on about. Well then, I Hiashi Hyuga vote against the banishment. I Shikaku Nara also votes against the banishment. Said Shikaku as he sent a smile towards Naruto, who seemed to be zoned out of this. I Choza Akamichi vote against the banishment. I'm with Choza and Shikaku. I Inoichi Yamanaka vote against the banishment. This village is blinded by hatred. I Tsume and Yuzuka vote against the banishment. I, Shibi Aburam vote against the banishment. Of course I Tsunade Senju vote against the banishment. At this point all the civilian council members were smirking, because if the rest of the council, civilians and elders vote for the banishment, then the demon will be gone at last. I Kensaku Chashi vote for the banishment. I Shibuki Haruno vote for the banishment. I Tashi Nanami vote for the banishment. I Tai Yamato vote for the banishment. I Tuchi Saki vote for the banishment. I Hamura Midokado vote for the banishment. I Kaharu Udatane vote for the banishment. I don't think that I need to vote anymore as the votes have already shown the result, said Danzo. And everyone knew that was the truth because there were 7 votes against the banishment and 8 votes for the banishment, so there was no point for Danzo to vote anymore. Tsunade didn't know what to do, her vision started to get blurry and fresh warm tears started to roll down her cheeks. I'm sorry Naruto, I don't know what to do. She said, trying her best not to cry. There is also another matter that must be taken care of before the banishment. Naruto must cut his ties with the toad summoning. We need to find Jiraiya for this as he is the one carrying the toad summoning contract. Said Danzo again. Not only has he made it possible to banish Naruto, but he is also taking away everything from him. You can't do that. Isn't banishing him enough? Said Tsunade in a slightly pleading tone. However, Danzo wasn't having any of that, so he replied, yes we can, the Nidaime's law clearly state that when being banished that person must cut all ties with Konoha, and that includes the toad summoning, who has stayed loyal to Konoha for 2 generations. Whilst this was happening no one seemed to see that Naruto hasn't spoken a single word. The usually loud and hot-headed blonde that shouts how he will become the Hokage was so silent, it would have put the Aburams to shame. Yeah, take away the contract and give it to Sasuke-sama, screeched Shibuki. Tsunade couldn't take it anymore and did what anyone would have in her position, she cried. She cried openly in front of the council, whilst the shinobi side could tell Naruto meant so much to her, the civilian side was having other thoughts. They were happy because they thought that the new Hokage was under their control. The person that was the most happiest was Danzo, he will remember this and one day use it to show their Hokage was weak and try to get the position himself. Naruto couldn't take it anymore and did what everyone was least expecting. He bit his thumb and went through 5 sets of hand seals at a speed that the civilians couldn't follow, but the shinobi knew that they were the seals for Fuchius no Jutsu, summoning technique, Naruto said in a hollow voice that sounded like it had been through the shinobi wars and lost all of their family. There was a puff of smoke, and when it dispersed you can see a small green toad blinking like he was surprised to be summoned, then he took a look at the surrounding. "Ah, you must be our new summoner Naruto-kun, Bunta-kun has told me all about you. I'm quite impressed that you managed to defeat the Ichibi Jinchuriki," Fukasaku said proudly. "That's a lie. We all know Uchiha-sama defeated the Ichibi," screeched the howler monkey again. Most the council had to cover their ears to prevent it from becoming deaf. "Well, I don't know who told you that, but clearly someone had given you the false information. Anyway, moving on to matters at hand, why have you summoned me Naruto-kun?" asked the old toad. "I would like to break the contract with the toads," Naruto declared in a monotone voice that caused many people in the council to flinch, including the stoic Aburam. "What?" said the old toad, clearly taken back by this reply. Never had any summoners told they wanted to break their contract, especially when the summoning we are talking about is the well-known powerful Toad clan. What he means is, he is getting banished from Konoha, and that means cutting all ties with the village, including summoning. Danzo said in a voice that betrayed all emotions. It took a moment to process the information given. He then looked around and saw that all faces showed full seriousness, so he knew it wasn't a joke. His eyes then landed on Naruto. It seemed like the poor boy had gone through so much. His eyes told it all, he was easily able to tell anger, sad, betrayal, and more negative emotions were going through it. "I won't do it," declared the old toad. He had seen enough to come to a conclusion. "You have no choice in it," said Danzo. "You can either break the contract with Naruto or you will have to break the contract with Jiraiya." "I refuse. There is no law among any summons that make them select one over the other, neither can you make us break our contract. If that is all, I will take my leave." He finished and was about to leave, however it seems not everyone was done. "Fukasaku-sama, can you break the contract? I wish to have no more ties that hold me down to Konoha," Naruto said with a monotone voice which made the ones who truly knew him really sad. "I would give back the Kyuubi too if I could." He finished, shocking most of the members sat there and causing a few to gasp at it. With great sorrow Fukasaku then said, "I'm sorry Naruto-kun, but it seems I'm left with no other choice, you can no longer be our summoner." With that said, Fukasaku then went through some hand seals and summoned a large scroll which most assumed was the contract of the toads. He opened the same scroll and quickly scanned it, then stopped when he saw the name of one Naruto Uzumaki. He then looked at Naruto one last time before going through another set of hand seals, only this time his time green hands began to have a white glow to it. He then placed his hands on the name and said, "Hi." The name slowly started to fade until there was no name on it. He then turned to the council. "You have no idea what you have done today. The child of prophecy would either bring peace to the world or destroy it altogether." After saying what he had to, he looked at Naruto for the last time before apologizing to him and disappeared in a puff of smoke. There was a long silence in the council, then it was broken by Kaharu, who said, "You have to leave Konoha by the end of tomorrow. That's enough, I think you all got what you wanted, now leave before someone ends up in the hospital," shouted Tsunade as she was not going to let this go on for any longer. Begrudgingly all the members made it out the door. Then there was just Tsunade and Naruto left. Tsunade turned the sad teen and said, "Don't worry Naruto, believe in me. I will find a way around it and keep you in Konoha. Don't give up, isn't that your Nindo?" she said with small smile. Naruto just replies with a nod and walks out the door. Time skip next day. Konoha Library. Currently sitting in the politics section of the library is our favorite busty Hokage. "I finally found it. There is a loop around this law, now I can go and tell Naruto this and finally see him smile." Now to find Naruto, knowing him he's probably at Ichiraku's ramen or at a training ground. She got up and went to her first location, Ichiraku's ramen. Surprisingly he wasn't there. He must be at the training ground then. 2 hours. I wonder where he is. He isn't at the ramen stand or any training grounds. Naruto isn't the one to wake up late nowadays. He usually gets up and goes to eat ramen for breakfast or go and train till the afternoon. She then walked up to his apartment and knocked on the door. "Naruto. It's me Tsunade, I have some good news. You don't have to leave Konoha, the council can't banish you." After a few moments Tsunade's shinobi side kicked in, she sensed there was something wrong, so she kicked the door open and looked inside for Naruto. But what she saw made her realize that she was probably too late. Most of Naruto's clothes were gone, as was the food, guess what it is, yup, ramen, and what made her cry was the sight of the Shodai's necklace on top of a piece of paper which she assumed was a letter. Meanwhile, outskirts of Hai no Kuni, land of fire. I hope what you say is true, Kurama. Don't worry about, it's the only place where you will be safe for now, Naruto. Naruto is no longer alive, the Naruto everyone knew is now dead. Chapter 2. An unexpected turn. Konoha 10 hours ago. After the council meeting finished, Naruto left the building, slowly walking out of there whilst looking at the floor which had captured his current attention, and walked where his feet took him. He passed a place where he was first acknowledged, Ninja Academy. This is the place Iruka Yamino, Chunin teacher, teaches the future generation of Konoha shinobi. He then passed a wooden stump in Training Ground 7, where his team was taught the value of teamwork. He passed several shops that always pushes him out of it or overcharge him by at least 200%, and that's on a good day, and he came to his apartment. His apartment wasn't exactly the best place. It was located in the poor part of Konoha, next to the markets. The building itself was a weak small building. He wondered how it hasn't come down yet. The place was a small and simple home for him. It had a living room with a small sofa with 3 seats and an equally small table by its side. There was a satisfactory kitchen, not that he uses it much anyway, all he needs is boiling water and a bowl, and ramen, he is happy. The kitchen was filled with empty ramen cups on the floor, and in the cupboards, there was unopened ramen cups everywhere. The bathroom wasn't too bad, it was big enough for him to have a shower comfortably. And lastly, his bedroom, there was a single bed and a side table where his alarm clock, which coincidentally is toad-shaped alarm clock, was sat on. He made his way to the bed and lied down on it. He then thought about what had occurred today, from how Sakura had slapped him and told him to never see her again, to how he had been banished by the very place he swore to protect. Naruto closed his eyes for a brief moment and opened it again, only this time he wasn't in his room anymore. He recognized where he was the moment he saw the rusty only pipe sticking along the wall, going to no end through the corridor. He was in his mindscape. He wasn't trying to get here, so that only leaves one other option, the Kyuubi called him here. He made his way towards the cage whilst pondering on the possible reasons for why he has been summoned here. After a few minutes he made it to a very large room with an equally large gate. The large gate seemed to be held by a piece of paper that had the kanji for seal on it, so it wasn't hard to piece together what was behind the gate. As he looked past the gate and into the cage, he can see a pair of blood-red eyes with vertically slit pupil, looking intensely at him. What do you want? Can't you see I'm not in the mood right now? It's because of you I'm in this situation. You have already caused me so much pain and suffering. Will you shut up? Kyuubi roared, which achieved its aim and caused Naruto to shut up. I know you have been suffering. I know you are angry right now, but don't let that cloud your judgment, otherwise you will become just like the villagers, who can't tell the difference between me and you. Kyuubi said angrily. Naruto just stood there. He didn't know what to feel. On one side he was angry because Kyuubi was comparing him to the ignorant villagers, but he was also shocked. Here stood the almighty Kyuubi that can level mountains and cause tsunamis with a swing of its tails. The almighty Kyuubi, and he was sympathizing with Naruto. Kyuubi then continued. I know that you have been banished, you had your dreams taken away from you. I'm inside you, so I know what's going on the outside. But just because they took away your dream of becoming Hokage doesn't mean you can't have another dream. The reason why I summoned you here is because of the banishment. I have seen you suffer and be hurt long enough, so I've decided to help you a bit. The Kyuubi said calmly now and without any anger. Naruto broke out of his shock and started to think about this logically. What the Kyuubi said is true. Just because they took away his dream of becoming Hokage doesn't mean he can't have another dream, or as stupid as it sounds, he could even become the Hokage another way. To be Hokage means you have to protect the village from all harm, so he can still protect his village from the outside and still become Hokage, right? How do I know you're not planning something to break out of the cage? After all, throughout history you have been seen as an evil and cunning being. Stated Naruto. Kyuubi then grinned. Naruto had finally come out of his pitiful state. So you did pay attention in school. Well, I guess there is no guarantee, all you can do is trust me and the Yondame's seal. Naruto then thought over this again and again, thinking about what the best choice would be. Sure, he can't trust the Kyuubi, he could be leading him to his end, or for a change Kyuubi might actually be helping him for once. After all, what has he got to lose? He had already lost everything. Fine, I'll accept your help. Naruto said reluctantly. Okay then. Firstly, I will tell you where we can go. There is a place that only 9 beings know of in this world. We will go there for now, it's the safest place to be, and it will protect us from the Akatsuki and other dangers, since you aren't strong enough to fight them, let alone defeat them. Naruto stood there not knowing how to react. He had thought that when the Kyuubi said he will help, Kyuubi was only going to give him some chakra when he was in danger, not tell him where to go, especially a secret location that is only known to 9 beings with Kyuubi being one of them. Fine, but first I need to leave a letter for Bachan, and I want to give back her necklace. After a few minutes Naruto had finished the letter and began packing everything he needed for the long trip ahead. Okay Kyuubi, let's go. Declared Naruto. Since I'm going to be stuck here for a while you can just call me by my name. Call me Kurama. Alright Kurama. Let's go. Present time. Outskirts of Hai no Kuni, land of fire. I hope what you say is true Kurama. Don't worry, it's the only place where you will be safe for now, Naruto. Naruto is no longer alive, the Naruto everyone knew is now dead. Naruto stated with a new attitude that surprised Kurama a little bit. From now on it will be Menma. Alright, but let's talk about names later. We have company and all I can sense from them is negative feelings. Kurama said in a quickly. Wait. Kurama said with a calculating look. This is a golden opportunity to deceive the world. I don't follow you. What do you mean? Asked Naruto, showing his stupidity side again. I know a jutsu that allows the user to make a clone that does not disappear after its defeat. Instead it dies like an actual human being. However only 4 Bijuas can use it as it consumes 5 taels worth of chakra. With this jutsu I can have the people following us kill the clone and therefore word will get around of your death. Then we won't have anyone chasing after us. Kyuubi said, showing why he was recorded as a cunning fox. Although that's a good idea, I don't really see the point of it. You said it yourself, the place we're going to is not known by many people. Naruto said. Well, think of it as an extra insurance. If the world believes we're dead then the Akatsuki won't be on our tails, an. Would this be a pun? If it is then it's not intended. Kyuubi said with his voice rising a bit because of Naruto's stupidity. Yes, that's true. Okay, so how do I do this jutsu? You can't, you don't have the chakra required and you don't know how to use my chakra to use the jutsu, so the only way around it is to let me control your body for a minute. Kyuubi said a little bit nervously because he knew what Naruto's answer will be, but didn't show it otherwise his reputation will be destroyed. No. Stated Naruto stubbornly. I won't let you do it. You would probably do something to free yourself or something else. Now is not the time to be arguing, besides what can I possibly do, it's not like there is someone around to kill. And I can't harm you without it leaving an impact on me. Kyuubi said quickly because he could now feel a third person faintly in the vicinity and unlike the first 2 presents this one seemed really powerful. Naruto thought over this and with no other option he gave in. Fine, but how do I let you become in control? That's simple. All you have to do is stop resisting my chakra and when you have enough I can come in control of your body. Said Kyuubi, to which Naruto simply nodded. Okay, I will start now. As soon as Kurama had said that Naruto felt his whole body burning and soon his body began to be enveloped in orange chakra. He started to grow chakra tails and with each tail his chakra darkened. After the first few tails and excruciating pain, Naruto fainted and Kyuubi came in control of the body. There in the middle of the open field stood Naruto with 6 tails dancing with the wind whilst Kurama went through several dozens of hand seals, then smashed his palm to the ground whilst screaming. Fuchius. Kaibunshin no Jutsu, summoning. Blood clone jutsu, then there was a plume of red smoke. As the crimson smoke died down, there stood next to Kurama, who now only had 1 tail, was a clone of Naruto. Only he had none of Kyuubi's chakra around him. Kurama looked at the newly born clone and said. You know what to do. To which the clone simply nodded and went in the direction of the 2 incomers. Kurama, who is still in control of Naruto's body, decided to head off towards their location because it would take a while for Naruto to wake up from his mental sleep. Meanwhile, with the other clone. The new Naruto clone was heading towards the presence of the 2 newcomers when he felt the third presence coming closely behind the 2. He could feel them coming close, so he decided to stop in an open field which was a perfect location for a battle. He knew that if he had to die in this battle, he would have to make it believable therefore fight till his full capacity. After stopping he unpacked for some ramen. Naruto was boiling his ramen and getting his chopsticks ready on his hand when a short Kadachi passed through him drawing his blood on its way. The short sword wielder had a satisfaction of finishing their mission quickly and easily until Naruto exploded in a grey cloud of smoke. Rasengan! Shouted Naruto, who had jumped from his hiding spot and pressed a Rasengan against one of the 2 members. As soon as he had done that he regretted his decision because very small black bugs started to spread throughout his hand. He looked at the 2 figures stood on front of him. The one he had hit with his Rasengan was on the ground but dispersed into bugs. He had seen how Shino fight and knows enough knowledge of the clans in Konoha to know that was an Abiram. The second figure stood beside the dispersed swarm of insects with a black cloak and a plain white mask on his face. If you look closely you would be able to see a kanji for northeast on the top corner of the mask. After seeing that his plans had failed, he quickly tried to think of another plan, however sharp pain started to spread throughout his body. When he looked at his hands he saw the insect starting to spread through his arm. He panicked because the pain was too much and he didn't know what to do. An idea then formed inside his head and without wasting a second he channeled the Kyuubi's chakra to his arm. His arm then became surrounded in orange chakra and the bugs started to fall from his arm. He smiled because he had taken care of one problem, but fell on his knees because using the little Kyuubi's chakra he had without the Kyuubi was not easy and that alone had used up 80% of his chakra. Without being told, the two Northeast members rushed at the Naruto who was now on the floor trying to get up. The one with the mask unsheathed his sword and slashed Naruto's back. The Aburam simply got close and released some of his bugs which then captured Naruto in a spherical shape. The bugs started to drain the little chakra he had and he also started to lose a lot of blood. Naruto couldn't take it anymore and closed his eyes. He soon found it hard to breathe and fell flat on the floor. The masked Northeast member walked up to Naruto gingerly and checked his hands for any pulse. When he couldn't feel any he got up and simply nodded to his partner. The Aburam didn't need to be told twice. He understood the meaning behind that and quickly fled from the place because they felt another person coming that way. A few minutes later a big man dropped from the trees and quickly rushed towards Naruto's corpse. Now he wasn't a medic nin, but after feeling Naruto's wrist for any pulse, he knew Naruto was dead. He started to cry. He was crying loudly and couldn't help but feel he was part of Naruto's death. After all, if your godson had just died and you couldn't do anything to help, wouldn't you start blaming yourself? Why? Naruto, why? I'm sorry Minato, Kushina, now I can never face you again. Cried the white-haired Sannin. Why? Naruto. I'm sorry, it was all my fault. If I was here then you wouldn't have been banished. I was going to take you with me, on the training trip, I was going to show you the world. Cried the man. He couldn't stop crying no matter what. He got up and sealed Naruto's deceased body into a large red scroll. At least he should tell Tsunade, after all she hadn't been doing ever since Naruto's banishment. Konoha. Currently in the Hokage's office at a drunken Tsunade. There were bottles of sake everywhere. Even Shizune, who usually stops Tsunade from getting drunk, decided it was best not to disturb Tsunade, let alone stop her from drinking any sake. Ever since Naruto had run off and left the letter and Shademe's necklace for her, she had been doing nothing but drink. Of course no one knew what was in the letter except Tsunade. Tsunade had only seen Jiraiya today and Shizune. She hasn't seen or talked to anyone except them two. Naturally Jiraiya wasn't happy when he had heard Naruto was banished and immediately left to go look for him. She had never seen Jiraiya that angry before. She was just about to help herself to another glass of sake when she heard a thud behind her. She turned behind quickly, only to see a sad and tearful Jiraiya. She knew that whatever he had found it was not going to be good. Tsunade. There was a long pause. Jiraiya didn't know how to say it to her. Tsunade. Naruto is dead. Stated Jiraiya. And as expected, Tsunade started to cry as well. Like she had been for almost the last 24 hours. Please Jiraiya. Please tell me that isn't the truth. Pleaded Tsunade. Jiraiya took out his big red scroll and laid it out on the floor before unsealing it. Then Naruto's dead body lied there on the floor, only for Tsunade too to start shaking. She didn't know what to do. There laid in front of her was her surrogate grandson. Then she came out of her shock and checked Naruto, after all she was the best medic in the world. So she could still save Naruto. After activating her medical jutsu her hands started glowing green. She then ran her hands all over Naruto's body to check for even the slightest bit of life. Half an hour later she still couldn't find any life in Naruto. Tsunade, I think that is enough. We both know there is no way for him to be saved anymore. He is dead. At least now he can finally meet his parents that he never had. Tsunade, stop. No. He is still alive. I know it, if I stop now then he will die. Said Tsunade, who was still trying to bring Naruto back to life when he was dead. Stop it Tsunade. You can stop. There is no other way around this, I failed him as a godfather. I can never face Minato or Kushina. Not anymore. Not ever. Tsunade stopped and looked at Jiraiya. Sure Naruto was close to her, but nowhere near as he was to Jiraiya. After all, whether he was his godfather. I guess the least we can do is give him a hero's funeral and announce to the stupid villagers exactly who his parents was. Tsunade said, trying to help out Jiraiya and herself. At least we can do that. Said Jiraiya, and although you cannot see it, there was a faint smile. Unknown location. Naruto started to wake up from his mental exhaustion. He slowly opened his eyes, allowing it to adapt to its new environment. As he opened his eyes he could only see green everywhere. The whole place was covered in green grass and a big waterfall. There was a small hut near the waterfall, but the most unusual thing about this place was the altitude of it. He was on top of a mountain, he guessed, and a very tall point as well, because he could literally feel clouds floating besides him. "Where are we?" questioned Naruto. "We are at the eye of the world, one," stated Kurama, proudly. "Naruto. What do you know of the Rakuto-sanin?" asked Kurama. "Well, I have heard of his name in class, but I don't remember," said Naruto, dumbly. "Well, I'm definitely going to have to make him smarter. He is not exactly the brightest Jinchuriki," thought Kurama. The Rakuto-sanin is the most powerful ninja to have ever lived. He was the creator of ninjutsu. He possessed a dijutsu that is said to be a myth, but I know firsthand it isn't. There was once a time where a tailed beast more powerful than me lived. No one could stand up to the beast, and one day an ordinary man fought against the beast and sealed it into himself, therefore making him the very first Jinchuriki. He was the Jinchuriki of the Juubi, also known as the 10 Tails. However, when his time was coming to an end, he knew the Juubi would try to escape, which is why he came here and separated the Juubi into 9 beings that you now know as the 9-tailed beasts. This location is my birthplace and only known to the 9-tailed beasts. The reason why he called it the Eye of the World was because with his Rinnegan, he could see the whole world from the peak. Naruto didn't know what to say. He was shocked. This was the place where Kurama was born and also the very place where the Rakuto-sanin died. Before he could think more, he was forced out of his shock when suddenly the waterfall came crashing down. He turned behind him to see the waterfall, only to see the water falling more and quickly, as well as a shadowy figure getting bigger in the waterfall. It got bigger and bigger until the figure walked out of the waterfall. Of course he didn't know who it was, but Kurama did. Father. Chapter 3. Legacy of a God. Currently Eye of the World. Father. There stood a man who looked like he was in his late 30s. He was about 6'1" and had black hair. He wore a necklace around his neck with 6 tomos on it. He wore a silver plate armor which reminded Naruto of the Shadame and Nidame because they wore similar clothing on the pictures he saw in the Hokage's office. The most intriguing thing about this man was his eyes. It was silver with the pupil being black and there was ripples going from the inside. He then started to think of what Kurama just said. Father? Wait. That's the Rakuto-sanin. Is he a ghost? I thought he died. Naruto said quickly because there was so many thoughts running through his head right now. After all, it isn't every day you see the man known as a god. Yes, that is me. Although my name is Hagoromo Otsutsuki. You can call me Hagoromo, Naruto, or should I say Menma, and how are you, Kurama-kun? The senin said in a soft voice that seemed like it could calm any enraged person, even Tsunade, without sake for a week. Now normally Naruto would have been on the floor laughing because someone had called the great Kyuubi Kurama-kun. If it wasn't for the fact that the legendary senin who had lived long before the formation of clans and start of the shinobi wars knew Naruto's name, then he might have been laughing. Can you hear me too, Sen? Asked Kurama meekly. Yes, I can, Kurama-kun, replied the old sage. You died, so how are you still alive? What you say is the truth. I did die, but I'm not exactly alive right now either. What you are seeing is a part of my true soul. There is a limit to how long I will be like this though. I will tell you why I am here now. If Naruto and Kurama wasn't already doing it, they were now giving all of their attention to them. As you may or may not know, my eyes, the Rinnegan has lots of powers, even I don't know it to its full potential. Hagoromo said, shocking both Naruto and Kurama because both of them thought the Rakuto-sanin would have known all of the secrets behind the Rinnegan. Kurama was beyond shocked because his father had defeated the Juubi when he didn't even use the full power of the Rinnegan. One of its powers allowed me to look into the future, stated Hagoromo, further shocking Naruto and Kurama because with power like that one can easily avoid death as they can see their death. That is the reason why I divided the Juubi into 9 parts: Shukaku, Matatabi, Isobu, Sengoku, Kakuo, Seiken, Jimei, Jayuki and finally Kurama. In one of my visions, I saw the Juubi attacking the world again, so I separated its powers into 9 parts. I also saw that it will be me stopping it, and as my visions showed me, it did happen, however it is going to happen again. It will also be up to me to stop the Juubi, or shall I say it will be up to my legacy to stop it. You, Naruto. I don't know if you believe in reincarnation, but you are my reincarnation. It will be up to you to stop the Juubi when it rises again. Naruto didn't know what to think. The Rakuto-sanin had just said he was his reincarnation. Not only that, but he will have to defeat the Juubi when it rises again. He was thinking so much he didn't even notice the senin move. The creator of ninjutsu walked slowly to Naruto and put his hand on Naruto's head and whispered. Ninjendo, human path. Naruto's head started to get fuzzy, and after about 10 seconds Hagoromo took his hand. It seems my prediction was right. I have seen your past and it has been correct so far. Naruto, you must become strong enough to battle Juubi when it rises, which is why I'm going to train you for the next 3 years. You currently have nowhere to go and you are weak, so we can stay here and train. Hagoromo stated harshly. Naruto could only nod. He had to admit that he was weak. After all, he didn't know anything. The only useful skills he had was making a Rasengan, climbing trees with chakra and stealth, which he taught himself with lots of practice from pranks. The sage then continued. From now on you will call me Hagoromo-sensei. But before we begin anything, there is a piece I must put into the puzzle. I will return Kurama's yin side to him. Hagoromo stated and smiled because he knew Kurama will also be happy right now, knowing he will be full again. Irakudo Sennin then started to concentrate and then calmly said. Higakudo. Then a head of a man started to rise from the ground. Normally only the summoner can see this, but since Hagoromo didn't want to hide anything, he decided to make the king of hell visible. Once the king got to about shoulder height on the floor, he stopped and opened his mouth to an incredible level. The black orb started to form outside his mouth, similar to how a Rasengan forms onto the palm of the hand. When the black orb was formed, it shot off into the sky and split into 9 separate parts. The 9 parts started to fall down and head towards Naruto. One by one they all entered Naruto forcefully and left him with lots of pain. At first he screamed because the pain was unlike anything he has ever experienced before, then eventually he couldn't take the pain and fainted. Hagoromo, however, was slightly worried. In his vision he had not seen this happen, somehow it had changed. He walked to Naruto and picked him up. Naruto's temperature was really high and he was now even more worried. He took him to his small hut and laid him on the bed. Konoha Council Chambers. Currently sitting in the council was all of the members except for one. Danzo was for some reason missing from the room. He was always punctual and never late to a council session. Tsunade was sat on her seat and she had red eyes which showed she has been crying recently. Behind her was Jiraiya, who also looked like he had been better. Just as Tsunade was about to start the council meeting because she couldn't wait for Danzo, the very person walks in. Danzo walked into the council happily because of the news he had heard from his root members. He already knew what this meeting was going to be about. Now that Danzo has arrived, we can finally start this meeting. Tsunade said bitterly, especially when she said Danzo. I call this meeting because the legacy of one of our Hokage has recently died. She said, trying her best not to cry. I'm sorry Hokage-sama, but none of the Hokage's legacy is dead. And the last time I checked, Asuma was fine. Said Inoichi. It's true that Asuma is fine, however I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the very person this council had banished recently. The son of Minato Namikaze. We didn't banish the Hokage's son. He never had a son, only a relationship with that red-haired bitch. Screamed the pink-haired harpy. However, not everyone was acting like Shibuki. Hiashi was thinking about this logically and trying to put the piece together. It was a well-known fact among his peers that Minato liked Kushina Uzumaki, and the fact Naruto was banished recently means he had to be their son. It would also explains why Kushina wasn't seen around the village much a few months before the Kyuubi attack. It also made him angry because Naruto was like niece to him because Minato was his best friend through childhood and through their ninja careers. It was also because of Minato that he got married to Hana. Minato was more like a brother to him than anything. Just to make it clear to all of you ignorant fools. My student son was Naruto Uzumaki, or should I say my godson, Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki. Stated Jiraiya, who couldn't stand these council members trying to deny a simple fact. But how is that possible? Yondaime-sama never got married, let alone have any child. Said Tai Yamato, one of the wealthy merchant. It's true, however, their marriage was kept secret and Naruto's parentage was also kept secret because if other elemental nations such as Iwa, then I think they would have done what you did well before he even became a genin. Jiraiya said sadly and angrily because even though the secret was kept, his godson was still killed. I was there when they got married. Jiraiya added. Now everyone was starting to think of what they had done. They were not thinking that they had finally got rid of the demon, but rather they had killed the last heir of the Namikaze. Even Danzo was thinking it, then he thought of what he had missed, the vault in the Namikaze's house. It was previously owned by Minato, and it was known to a few members of the council what was in there. There are lots of jutsu scrolls ranging from D ranks to S ranks, and of course, there is also the scroll for the technique that allowed Minato Namikaze to become the yellow flash of Konoha, Hirishin. If he could get his hands on them, then he could build an unstoppable root army, only no one can get in, even Jiraiya, because of all the complicated seals around it. The only way in is through the main gate where you had to spread your blood across the seal, but it only allows the blood of Minato and his relatives in. Do you have Naruto's body? I think we should give him a proper hero's funeral. Danzo said. And a few people in the council nodded their heads, whilst the others still had their heads down because they felt shame for what they have done. We do, but we will be doing a private funeral with only a few selected people. It's because we don't want anyone finding his body and using his blood to get into the Namikaze's house. Tsunade said impassively because she and Jiraiya had already talked about the possible consequence of revealing his heritage. But we should at least be invited to his funeral. Danzo said again, not giving up. I want to say I'm sorry for what I did. It's a bit too late for that, Danzo. From what I heard, you're the one that said Naruto should be banished. Jiraiya said angrily. The man who was responsible for Naruto's death wanted to say sorry. Like he would believe that, Danzo probably wanted to know where Naruto was buried so that he can dig him up and use his blood to get into the Namikaze's vault. If you do want to say sorry to him, then you can go to the memorial stone, because we're making a statue dedicated to a genin that tried to prove he was not the Kyuubi, and the council, who couldn't tell the difference between a seal and a kunai, banished him, where he died," said Tsunade. "Now council dismissed," she said again, and with that she and Jiraiya walked out of there to her office because she had yet another meeting, only this time it wasn't the council but Naruto's friends. Konoha Hokage's office. Currently in the office were the rookie 9 minus Naruto, and with them was also Team Guy. They had been called by Hokage, and when they saw all of these genins here they knew it had to be something important. "So what do you think this meeting is about?" asked Kiba, who obviously didn't understand it was something important. Akamaru just continued to sit on his head and barked in response. "Yeah, you're right, boy, where is Naruto?" said Kiba, who had only just noticed Naruto was missing. Of course he wasn't the only one to notice it. Shikamaru, Niji and Hinata had already noticed this, and they thought this meeting had to be about him. "We can answer that," said Jiraiya, who had just walked into the office. By him walked Tsunade, who was just pissed off after the council meeting. She was hoping at least Naruto's friends would react better than them. "Jiraiya-sama," said most of the genins. Of course there was one who did not allow his pride to be crushed, so he just met like the brooding Uchiha he is. "So everyone is here," Tsunade said as she looked around and saw that all of Naruto's peers was here. "We called you here because of a sad news regarding Naruto," Tsunade slowly said, trying to find the right words for this. Now most of Naruto's friend was worried, all except from Sakura and Sasuke. "How should I say this? I know, what do you all know about the Kyuubi?" she asked. "Well, that's easy. Everyone know that the Kyuubi attacked Konoha 13 years ago and the Yondaime killed the beast. But he also got killed in the process of it. It was one of the reasons why he is the strong Hokage," said the bookworm, Sakura Haruno. "That is what everyone was told. However, there was a law stopping everyone from your generation from finding out about what really happened," Tsunade said, earning their full attention. 13 years ago the Kyuubi did attack, however the Yondaime couldn't kill the beast because it was a being made up of pure chakra and can't die. So he used his knowledge of Fuinjutsu to defeat the beast. However, it can't just be sealed into anyone. It had to be a newborn baby because its chakra network hasn't been built yet, so he sealed it into the only baby he could, his son," she said, shocking everyone. To think the Yondaime had a son and it was the person that held back the Kyuubi. "If I may ask Tsunade-sama, who was this person?" asked Ino. "The person who it was sealed into is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki," she said, earning a shocked face from everyone, even Sasuke. However, Tenten was the most taken back by this. "Is it the same Kushina Uzumaki that was the best swordsman in Konoha, known as the red hot-blooded habanero? The one that was said to be as strong as if not stronger than Kiri's 7 swordsmen of the mist?" asked Tenten quickly. "Yes, it was. Kushina was Naruto's mom, however she and Minato died the night Kyuubi attacked, which is why Naruto grew up as an orphan. It was also why the villagers treated Naruto badly and beat him up almost every day. This brings us to the next point. After bringing back Sasuke, Naruto was banished by the council because he accessed the Kyuubi's chakra against his fight," she said, and most of Naruto's friend became angry. Sasuke was the one running away from the village, yet it's Naruto who gets punished. "Surely you could have stopped them from banishment, right? After all, you are the Hokage and you have final say in anything," said Shikamaru. "I could have, however there was a rule made by the Nidaime which allows the council to overrule my decision if majority of the council voted. And that is what happened. But I didn't give up. I read through the politics section of the library and found a loop around it, and I went to find Naruto about this, however he was gone. He wasn't there, only a letter and my grandfather's necklace left there," she said, trying not to cry, but slowly tears started to build up in her eyes. "That's not the end of it either," she said, but Jiraiya decided it was best if he said what happened next to everyone. "That day I came back to take Naruto on my training trip and found out what happened. So I immediately left Konoha to search for Naruto. And I did find him, only it wasn't the way I hoped to find him. I found Naruto in the middle of a field which seemed like the result of a battle, and when I went to check on him who was laying on the floor, I found out that he was dead," he stated with sadness which was obvious from his voice. The group was shocked. Thud. Everyone looks towards the sound and find Hinata on the floor, unconscious. She had fainted. Even though she had fainted, there was tears coming out of her closed eyes. No one could blame her though. After all, if you find out that the one you love the most has died, you wouldn't just sit around, you would probably cry. Almost everyone had tears in their eyes because Naruto, their friend, had died. Almost everyone. Sasuke was just stood there with an emotional expression. Sakura however was feeling a lot of guilt. Her last confrontation with Naruto wasn't exactly pleasant. She had slapped Naruto and basically told him to never see her again and she didn't want to see him ever again either. Tsunade then announced. Sasuke and Sakura are dismissed. The rest of you stay, I have to tell you something important. Sakura slowly walked out of the place whilst Sasuke just stood there. Didn't you hear me, Sasuke? I said you and Sakura should leave. I did hear you, but if it's something important then I should hear it as well, after all I'm an elite Uchiha. And these are just normal genins. Jiraiya was so tempted to punch him through the wall. You will obey my orders and get out of here, genin. Or I make you a civilian and remove your chakra network. And that was the threat needed to get Sasuke to get out of the office. As Sasuke walked out, Iruka knocked on the door. Okage-sama, is Naruto really dead? He asked, not wanting to believe it. I'm sorry Iruka, but that is true. And you should stay, I was going to call you anyway. I have kept all of you behind because you will all be at Naruto's private location, will be kept a secret for many reasons, so I don't want any of you to tell anyone. Eye of the world. Naruto opened his eyes and took a look at his surroundings. He could see a small window with a wooden frame and a small table by his bed and a chair. He slowly got up and went to the bathroom. There was a mirror there and for some reason he thought he should look at the mirror because it felt like his hair was burning and there was a bump on his head. As he looked at the mirror he could see a big difference to how he looked before. His hair had turned black. His whiskers mark also got darker and it was more visible, but the scary thing was his eyes. It nodded red slitted pupil, like the Kyuubi's. What happened to me? He asked to no one in particular. A lot. An answer came back. This caused Naruto to jump a bit, then he started to remember what happened before he fainted. The Rakuto Sennin did some weird jutsu, then a head started rising from the ground and it shot out a black ball into the sky. That ball exploded into 9 parts and all of it went into him. I will explain what had happened. The black ball you're thinking of right now is Kurama-kun's dark part or his yin chakra, which was separated from him when sealed into you. I simply recovered it and tried put it back into you, only there was some problem and your body didn't accept the chakra. That is why you felt so much pain and your body passed out. Over the 2 weeks you have been asleep, the yin chakra has slowly adapted and is now in your body, but it's not in the same way as Kurama's chakra. It had evolved in your body and given you a new bloodline, Mighten, Dark Release. This is something that never showed in my future vision, so whatever it is, it's a god's gift to you. Naruto was trying to process all of that. He had been out for almost 2 weeks and he has a new bloodline. Now that you are up though, get ready and enjoy your day because we begin training tomorrow. Hagoromo stated. Hi Hagoromo-sensei. Naruto said enthusiastically. He then began to think, if he had a bloodline then does it mean he came from a clan? Maybe Hagoromo Jiji knows. If he can look into the future then he must have seen who my parents were so he can tell me, he thought to himself. Chapter 4. 3 years. Time skip 3 years. Hai no Kuni, Land of Fire, Konoha. The village hidden in the leaf was getting on with their normal day routine. The sun was up and feeding the village and the people with plenty of sunlight. The birds were keeping the village from falling silence with their singing, not that it would with all the people talking and greeting each other. Walking through the market was a young pink-haired lady. One of Tsunade's 3 apprentices, Sakura Haruno. Over the 3 years she had matured a lot. And the trigger of this was her guilty feeling towards a blonde-haired genin who is now deceased. After she had heard the news she was very sad because of what she had said to him. She was crying and stayed in her room for about a month, then that's when she got help. Her friend Ino came to talk to her, although Ino was angry because of what Sakura had done, she couldn't let her get depressed and stay the way she was. They had talked and Sakura came up with a new goal, she will become stronger and also become the best medic because that way she would never have to lose another person close to her again. Ino and Sakura went to Tsunade in hopes of becoming her apprentice, of course Tsunade rejected Sakura immediately, but after a lot of apologizing and explaining her reason, Tsunade had accepted her as an apprentice. But that didn't make any of the training easier, she had constantly worked every day so that she can achieve her goal, and after 3 years she has become one of the if not the best medic nin in Konoha of her generation. Currently Sakura was walking to the main gate to collect the newspaper that the Hokage asked for. As she got closer to the main gate she could see Kotetsu and Izumo sitting on their seats and looking bored as usual. Hi Sakura, it's been a while since I saw you. Said Kotetsu. I was only here yesterday to collect the newspaper. She replied. Really? It feels like I've been here forever. Complained Kotetsu. Why don't you get an actual mission and get out of this gate watching then? Well anyway I'm here for today's paper. Yeah I have them here. Izumo said and picked up one of the paper that has been rolled up on top of a pile with lots of newspaper and handed it to her. Before she could leave Izumo turned serious and passed a final message. When you have time read it, it seems that the masked ninja has wiped out another bandit camp, except this time they had at least 3 A-class missing nin and over 50 bandits. And he said this with a serious tone. Sakura nodded and walked away. As she was walking towards Tsunade's office, she started to think about this masked shinobi. This mysterious shinobi first made his existence clear about 6 months ago when he captured a small group of missing nin who had been made criminal for selling out their village secrets to enemy village. No one knows what he looks like or even where he came from, only a few slaves that had been freed from bandits know. They don't even know how he fights, only the bandit started screaming and it was all over in 5 minutes. As she got closer to the Hokage's office she saw Kiba, Hinata and Shino standing outside, all looking a bit out of character, which created a serious atmosphere. "Hey guys," Sakura said friendly as she waved at them. "Is something wrong?" "We don't know. We were called here to come immediately by the Hokage and Kurenai-sensei is in the room talking with Tsunade-sama along with Kakashi-sensei," Hinata said. Over the 3 years, it wasn't only Sakura who had grown a lot. All the rookie 9 has. However, out of them all, the most noticeable was Hinata because no longer was she the shy little girl she once was. She has lost her shy habit after Naruto's death, although it took her months to come out of the shock, but with teammates' help and especially Kurenai-sensei's help she did. And it was on that day she also had a new goal, it was to become a strong kunoichi so that she can become the next Hokage, and she will do it. After all, she never goes back on her word because that's her ninja way. At that moment the door opened and Shizune walked out, not looking happy, but rather really tense. "Tsunade-sama asked all of you to come in." She spoke quickly. Without being told twice, Sakura and teammate walked in wondering what has happened. In the room they saw their Hokage, Tsunade Senju, as well as their senseis, Kurenai Yuhi and Kakashi Haddock. "Teammate and Sakura 7. Tsunade spoke in a commanding voice, showing why she was the Hokage. "Your senseis already know the full details, so I will make it brief. Yesterday the Kazekage was defeated and kidnapped by the Akatsuki at their home village. Both Team 7 and 8 will go out immediately to rescue the Kazekage. This mission will be led by Kakashi with Kurenai in second command. If you have any questions then ask either Kakashi or Kurenai as they already know the full details. You will leave as soon as your teams are ready. I will send backup soon as a team is back from mission, as all teams are on a mission and you are dealing with Akatsuki, so we cannot risk taking chances." She finished. "Hi Hokage Tsunade-sama," they all said. "Okay. Tsunade-sama has already told you what has happened. We will all prepare for the mission and meet at the south entrance in 30 minutes. And don't be late," Kakashi said. Normally they would have laughed because those words were not something that goes with Kakashi, but it just showed how much more important this mission was. After all, the Kazekage has been kidnapped by the Akatsuki and Suna had requested their help. And mainly because Gaara was one of Naruto's close friend and a Jinchuriki too. But the final instruction given, everyone nodded their heads and left except Sakura, who left the newspaper and said one last thing to Tsunade. "Don't worry Tsunade-sama, we will rescue Gaara." Tsunade simply nodded her head in acknowledgement, then opened up the newspaper for any interesting news. However, she was thinking about what team to send. Guy's team was supposed to come soon, so she could send Team Guy along with Sasuke, who was in a mission with them, but that might be a risk. After all, sending Sasuke to deal with Akatsuki might make him unstable again, and she don't have much control over him either due to him being part of Danzo's Anbu. On the border between Tsuchi no Kuni, Land of Earth, and Ashigakure no Sato, village hidden in the stones. A bandit camp, night time. "I can't wait for the auction next week. These slaves should get us enough money to last us for at least 9 months," said a bandit excitedly, pointing behind them where about 30 people were all locked in cages. In the group there was many women, children and elderly people. The weren't looking good though, like they haven't eaten in weeks. "Yeah, I know. When I get my share I think I will go to the land of hot water. I heard they have lots of hot springs and they have recently built some casinos, that should be fun." "What are you going to do with your share, Kusuo?" replied another bandit to his friend who is now identified as Kusuo. "I don't know. I hadn't thought of what to do with my share. I think I might come with you to land of hot water. It doesn't sound bad. Wait a second. I'm getting tired of all these kids crying. Let me go shut them up," Kusuo said as he got up and started to walk towards the cage where all people were locked up. The children in the cage started to get scared as they saw a bandit walking towards them. The small girl who was crying started to cry even more now because of how scared she was. "I want to go home to mommy," she said whilst crying. Another boy who looked about the same age as the girl sat next to the girl and tried to calm her down. "Don't worry Maki, we will go home then you can see your mommy," he said, trying to convince her even though he knew they won't get out of here. Like most children here, he had been separated from his parents and he too was kidnapped, but unlike most children, he knew what was going to happen as he was the son of shinobi and his dad had already told him a lot about bandits and what they do to people that get kidnapped by them. "Shut your mouth, you stupid kids," Kusuo said as he got closer to their cage. "You won't see your parents again," he then grinned. "Because we have already killed them." And Maki started to cry even louder than before, but this time it wasn't only Maki as lots of the other children also started to cry after hearing their parent were killed. They were giving too much trouble, like you are right now. "So if you don't shut up I will send you to your parents right now," he said as he pulled out his large battle axe which was still stained with blood. Most the children had now stopped their crying out of fear, but Maki was still crying and couldn't stop. "Yes, I will have to show you what I mean," he said as and went closer to the cage's door. "Boy Kusuo, isn't that going a bit far? I mean you can kill her if you want, but the money is coming out of your share," said Kusuo's friend. Kusuo suddenly stopped moving and just stood there. All the people was staring at Kusuo, Maki had also stopped crying and just stared at Kusuo. Everyone in the cage was silent and Kusuo's friend was confused. But that wasn't for long because Kusuo's body slowly moved with the wind and fell backwards, which is when a kunai was seen stuck in his throat closing his mouth and by the looks of it, gone straight to his brain. Kusuo's friend came out of his shock and was about to alert all the other bandits because him and Kusuo was on the lookout. However he came out of his shock a bit too late because a black mist started rolling into the forest. All the people in the cage was shocked and confused because suddenly Kusuo got killed and then his friend was about to warn the other bandits, but suddenly a black mist started to cover the whole area and they haven't heard anything after that. Not even Kusuo's friend. After about 2 minutes they heard some metal things rattling and a clank. Then they heard a metal door creaking and there was no mistaking it, it was the door to their cage. The mist soon started to disperse and what they saw made them happy and shocked. On the floor was all the bandits' dead body with a pool of blood by their heads. But what made them happy was the cage door open. They also saw a scroll outside the cage which was never there. Everyone got out of the cage and started to cheer, then a red-haired woman in about her early 20s gingerly walked to the scroll and picked it up and looked at it. It didn't seem like it was dangerous, just another ordinary sealing scroll, so she opened it and there was a large cloud of smoke. When the smoke died down, there was something that made everyone happy and restored hope in everyone. There was food, lots of food, more than enough for everyone. There was also a map of their surrounding with an X marked on it, which was presumably where they were. No one knew who their hero was, but they had an idea of who he was. Everyone was too busy eating their food anyway. From a very long distance there a figure looking at the whole group. After seeing what he wanted he turned around and left the vicinity. "You know we are just wasting time here. We have to hurry to the land of river quickly, otherwise that crazy raccoon will be sucked out of Gaara and according to what the old man said we have 3 days before it happens. That's more than enough time." 1 day later, 2 days till Ichibi is sealed. Sunagakure Hospital. After arriving a half a day ago, everyone had been told what happened. They had been told about how Gaara had been attacked in the middle of Suna and that the members who attacked them were Sasori and Deidara, and XXVI shinobi. When they had heard Kankuro had followed the 2 Akatsuki members to the middle of the desert and fought with them, only to get beaten badly and poisoned, Hinata and Sakura immediately took action and tried to cure him. Of course there was a lot of poison in his body at first, but with Hinata's Byakugan and Sakura's emergency poison removing skills they had removed most of the poison. They then had to make a cure, which wasn't too hard because with Hinata's Byakugan, she could see the structure of the poison and then she along with Sakura made an antidote to cure Kankuro. After 12 hours of treatment he had finally been saved. "He should be fine now, we have removed all the poison. He just needs to rest and he will be fine," Sakura said. "Thank you so much. I don't know what would have happened without you. Thank you Sakura and Hinata for saving my little brother," Tamari said really happily with joy tears because her brother had just been cured from Sasori's poison. "Since Kankuro is better we can leave to retrieve Gaara from Akatsuki. I had already sent Pakin and Kiba to find the trail using the cloth Kankuro gave." Kakashi intervened. "He's right, the more time we take the more chance they have of getting away with it," Kurane added. Then everyone in the room got a bit tense and the atmosphere of the room turned everyone serious. At that moment Kiba, Akamaru and Pakin walked in. "We found the trail, we should leave as soon as possible because the trail could easily be lost," Kiba said with a nod of approval from Pakin. "Okay then. Everyone get your things and prepare, we will leave in 15 minutes," Kakashi said with a voice a little louder than normal and heard a chorus of "Hi. Kakashi-san, I will also be coming with your team. I have to rescue my brother," Tamari said to Kakashi. But before Kakashi could reply Lady Chiyo intervened. "No Tamari. I will go with them. I have some things I must say to my grandson," she said. Temari was about to say something, but Ibizo put his hands on her shoulders. If everyone who wants to go to save the Kazakage goes on this mission, then who will defend Suna? Word will get out that we currently have no cage and any neighboring village may attack us to become one of the 5 great villages. We should stay here and defend our home. It is what the Kazakage would want us to do right now. Let's leave Garakhan to Konoha's team and Chio. He said, trying to persuade and open Temari's eyes. Okay. We will defend our home. And Chio-sama, please save Gaara. She said with a pleading look in her eyes. She then turned to Team 7 and 8. Good luck to you all and be safe. And she left the room. Okay, Team 7 and Team 8 prepare to leave soon. Kakashi said before leaving to get his supply from the room where they were staying. 15 minutes later, Suna's east entrance. At the east entrance stood the team from Konoha, Sakura, Hinata, Shino, Kiba, Akamaru and Kurane with their team captain Kakashi, who was stood next to his ninkin, Pakin. They were all getting ready to leave to get back Gaara. Behind the team, Lady Chio walked towards them, followed by her brother, Ibizo. And behind all of them was Suna's shinobi with Temari in the middle holding her signature fan. All of Suna was cheering for them to rescue their beloved Kazakage. Okay team, let's move out. Pakin, Kiba and Akamaru will at the front, Hinata and Kurane at the back. Sakura and Lady Chio will be in the middle with me and Shino on the sides. Now let's go. Kakashi said, and they all moved in formation towards their destination. One day later, one day to Lichibi is sealed. Border between Kase no Kuni, land of wind, and Kawa no Kuni, land of river. Running through the forest on the border between 2 countries was Team 7 and 8, along with Lady Chio. If you look closely at them, you can see that they are really exhausted. That's because they have been running for 18 hours out of the last 24 hours. They only had 6 hours of rest. Okay team. Kakashi said, stopping everyone. Let's rest for a bit. We have all been moving for a long time, so let's rest and recover some strength so that we can fight the Akatsuki at full strength. We will stay here for about an hour, so do what you want. Kakashi finished, then pulled out his little orange book. Finally. I feel a bit exhausted after all that running. But that was nothing for us, right Akamaru? Kiba said, and Akamaru barked back, but Kiba knew what he was saying. But Kiba, it was Akamaru that did most the job as you were riding on him. Hinata added. Oh. Come on Hinata. Whined Kiba. While Akamaru barked again and went to Hinata. The rest of the group was laughing at this, except Chio, who was deep in thought about Sasori, and Shino, who seemed like he was talking to a bug. While all this was going on, a certain black and white member of the Akatsuki went into the tree he was in. Awa no Kuni Akatsuki hideout. In the cave in Land of Rivers, there stood a large pair of wooden hands and a huge wooden head. This head had 9 eyes and all of them were closed. In each of the fingers there was figure standing, and in the middle between the 2 hands was Gaara floating in a chakra bubble. The chakra looked like it was being eaten by the head because all of the chakra was going straight into its mouth. Then suddenly a clone of Zetsu that was observing the rescue team came out of the ground, drawing the attention of most members of Akatsuki. The team from Konoha is coming here, they are being accompanied by Chio from Suna. They are coming here earlier than anticipated. Why is she coming here? Thought Sasori. Well, I was getting bored of just standing and sealing the Ichibi here anyway, we should pay them a visit. I would really like to show them my art. Said Deidara. Before anyone else could say anything, the leader of the organization decided to add his part. No. Kisame and Itachi should go deal with them. Kisame, you deal with the team coming from the east side, and Itachi, you deal with Kakashi's team on the west side. Said the figure with rippled eyes. Pain. Samahata was getting hungry anyway, and I was looking forward for a rematch with the Green Beast. Kisame said, whilst Itachi simply nodded his head at the order given. However, he was thinking about what to do if Sasuke was there. But Team 7 and 8. Currently they were all getting ready to leave. They had packed up their things and was about to leave, but. Whoever you are, come out of there. I know you're there. Shino said with no expression and just got into his battle stance, and everyone else followed him. Without being told again, from behind the tree a shady figure walked out. Almost everyone was too shocked to do anything. Their brains was not functioning properly, and Chio was just as confused. Why was there another Konoha ninja out here? Wasn't all the backup already here, and if there is more, then why is there only one person there, no one boy? Meanwhile, Hinata was on the verge of crying. She slowly identified what was in everyone's mind, because there in front of them stood a blonde boy who everyone had thought to be dead over 3 years ago. Naruto. Chapter 5, Unknown Help. East of Kawa no Kuni, Land of Rivers. Racing towards the Akatsuki hideout to aid Team 7 and 8, as well as saving the Kazakage, was members of Team Guy, the Green Beast of Konoha, Might Guy, the prodigal Hyuga Niji, Konoha's weapon mistress, Tenten, and lastly the second Green Beast of Konoha, Rock Lee. And following shortly behind them was the last Uchiha Sasuke. When they went to Konoha after a tiring mission, which was to patrol the borders of Land of Fire, for 2 weeks, they were hoping to get some rest, not to get sent on another mission straight away. Of course they saw the reason behind it, the Kazukiage was an important person. After traveling for a day they reached the desert that they are currently crossing. The desert was blazing hot and it went on for as far as the eye can see. After being in the desert for a couple of hours they guessed they were at halfway point, they saw a figure at the horizon. When they got close enough they all stopped and Neji activated his Byakugan to take a look at the person in front of them. After a quick analysis he decided to tell his comrades. It's no stranger. With a large chakra, the cloak with red clouds and the sword which also have large amount of chakra, he must be Kisame Hoshigaki. Although he doesn't seem to be at full strength as he only has half his chakra reserve. Said Neji confidently. At this point Sasuke smirked. After 3 years, he finally gets a chance to get Itachi because Kisame was Itachi's partner, so he must know where he is. Kisame? Sasuke shouted. Kisame simply tilted his head in Sasuke's direction. If you want to live, tell me where Itachi is. He demanded and activated his Sharingan to tell him he wasn't joking. Kisame didn't say anything, just adjusted Samehada to his comfort. Sasuke was getting angry at this, so he decided to beat the information out of him. He got his feet in a position to sprint at him and charged his right hand with lightning chakra. During all of this guy was still trying to figure out who this person was. Once Sasuke was ready he launched a Kisame with intent to kill. He didn't get far though, because as soon as he launched himself he found himself in the ground with his right hand stuck in the ground. On top of him was Guy holding him down. Sasuke. Haven't you learned anything over the past 3 years? You don't just blindly rush at your opponent. Whoever he isn't to be taken lightly. Look at his stance, he had his weapon ready to slash anyone that attacked him. Guy explained to Sasuke. Meanwhile Sasuke was raging. He was about to kill the shark bastard or fatally injure him and get info on Itachi, but got stopped by Guy like it was nothing. Of course he had been caught off guard by this, since he was only focused on Kisame and didn't expect a comrade to attack him. Guy decided to step in and take care of Kisame, he got off of Sasuke and inspected his opponent. He then came to a conclusion. I don't know who you are, but you look very identical to the Kisame I fought before. I also don't know what your purpose is, but if defeating you is the only way to get past, then that is what I will do. He declared. Almost everyone was shocked by this. Like everyone Tenten was sure it had to be Kisame Hoshigaki, one of the Kiri no Shinobigatana Shichinen SHK-7 swordsmen of the mist. After all he wielded the legendary Samehada, able to eat chakra and only obeys its wielder, so if it's not Kisame how is it listening to him? Neji was a bit suspicious from the start, so he didn't find it unbelievable. This Kisame did have a small reserve of chakra compared to what the real Kisame would have. The tailless Biju would have at least 4 times the amount Kisame would have if his guess was correct. Lee was shocked at first, but not because of what they found, but because of who found out. That's Guy-sensei. He has eyes that can pierce further than the Byakugan and see better than the Sharingan. He declared with his high spirit. Everyone just fell down in I'm style with a sweat drop. Of course Guy didn't, he just did his good guy pose where he had a big smile, a very big smile, and had his thumbs up towards Lee. Before anything else could be said Guy turned around and got into his taijutsu stance. Kisame just smirked and got into his stance with Samehada in one hand. Team 7 and 8 Kawa no Kuni, Land of Rivers. In the open field surrounded by the bright green forest, stood Gaara's rescue team. Everyone there was just stood still. All of their attention was on one person. In front of them stood a 16-year-old boy with sun-kissed blonde hair, he stood at about 5.5 feet high. The most noticeable feature about him was the whiskers mark on his cheek. Hey guys. What do I say, guess Nadi started but was cut off by Hinata who was crying. Stop. I don't know who you are or why you're doing this, but this is a sick joke. She said with anger in her voice. Most of the group knew what was going on now, even if they didn't notice it before. She looked at Naruto once again then turned towards Kurone. Chiyo was still a bit confused, there was only one thing running through her mind right now, who is that boy? Sensei. She said and Kurone just nodded because she knew what Hinata meant. Kurone held up her hand and made a seal. She then started to gather chakra in her hands. Once she got enough she released it all at once. Genjutsu. Hiki no Kai, Genjutsu. Burst release, and with that the built-up chakra was released and spread out from her in a ring, when it touched Naruto he simply disappeared. It was a Genjutsu. That means the caster is nearby. Chiyo announced. Everyone was in a stance prepared for battle now. As they quietly looked for where the enemy was a bug flew to Shino and seemed like it was talking to him, he then told the group. The enemy is hiding behind that tree. He said pointing at a tree that was near them. Since we all know where you are why don't you show yourself Itachi? Kakashi said, with slight anger in his voice. Then a figure walked from behind the tree and stood in front of everyone in the open field. It seems Sasuke is not here. Is he still being watched by Konoha after the incident 3 years ago, and has he got enough hatred to kill me? He asked calmly. Everyone was stood still trying to come up with the best plan to attack. Sakura couldn't take it anymore and just charged at him. When she got close enough she pulled back her fist and released it quickly, resulting in a powerful punch that shook the ground a bit. She then jumped back again because it seemed too easy to defeat Itachi, an S-rank missing nin of Konoha, and she was correct because Itachi disappeared with his signature Genjutsu and crows started to fly around. Itachi then reappeared nearby and just dusted himself. It seems medic isn't the only skill you learned from Tsunade over the past 3 years, you have also gained the super strength. He calmly stated. Why are you here Itachi? Questioned Kakashi as he pulled up his headband, revealing a crimson eye with 3 tomos swirling in a circle, the Sharingan. Itachi just stood calmly and observed everyone. He noticed that everyone was planning something, the Aburam was stood still, but he had worked with more than enough Aburams during Anbu to know that the Aburam was discreetly gathering all the bugs in the vicinity. The Inuzuka didn't look like he had anything planned, but just had one of his hands held tight, which he had to guess had the pill which will be given to the dog at any moment. Then the Hyuga, she seemed to be concentrating all of her attention on him, he would have thought that she would be charging at him for showing him her dead loved one. Sakura looked at him with eyes that showed anger, she had her hand ready to punch anything, and at the same time she was ready to heal any injured members. The 2 Jounins, Kurane and Kakashi, seemed to be ready to counter anything. Kakashi was observing him with his Sharingan, whilst Kurane was ready to activate a Genjutsu by the look of her hands and position. And lastly the Suna's puppeteer, Lady Chiyo, who was also Sasori's grandmother. Although it seemed like she was just standing there, Itachi could see the chakra string attached to her scroll which she can pull out at any given moment and unleash a puppet. It seems that all of you want to fight me. He stated with a monotone voice. Kakashi was about to ask him the previous question again, however Hinata interrupted to give a vital piece of information. That's not Itachi. At first I was unsure because his chakra is too small to belong to an S-class like him. However I looked further into him and saw that his whole body is an illusion because there is another body in there and Itachi is just a layer of chakra that's controlling the body. If I had to guess I would say the real Itachi is really far from here. Isn't that right Itachi? She announced. Although he didn't show it, Itachi was both impressed and shocked at the same time. Hinata Hyuga had just revealed one of Akatsuki's secret jutsu just by looking at him with her Byakugan. I was thinking the same too. Said Kakashi, backing up Hinata. I have fought Itachi before and worked with him before that. I was thinking he was acting strange. Kakashi explained. Since we know he is just here to stall for time, I think we should just kick his ass and move on to save Gaara. Kiba said with a lot of enthusiasm, and Akamaru just barked to that saying he agrees then went back to growling at Itachi. I agree with Kiba. If Itachi is here to stall for time, then their hideout must be close and they don't have enough time to finish what they are doing, which is why they have sent Itachi here. Shino said with no emotion in his voice. Then Itachi suddenly started to run through severely hand seals. It may not be the real Itachi, but don't underestimate him. Kakashi shouted. Before the team could react Itachi took a deep breath and blew a giant fireball behind him. The fireball went through the forest burning down anything in its way trees and bugs. Lots of bugs. When he turned around again he saw that everyone was moving, trying to get the right moment to attack him. He then had to dodge an attack incoming from both sides but couldn't move. He looked down and saw that his feet was sinking into the ground. That's Suuga. Fang over fang, and. Correct me if I'm wrong, shouted Kiba as he and Akamaru moved towards Itachi at an amazing speed, through the air, and spinning so fast all anyone could see was a cylinder-shaped thing moving. Then it hit Itachi head-on, but somehow Itachi moved his body so that he got out of that with minimal amount of damage. But as soon as Kiba had finished his attack he saw Sakura charging at him and he knew there was no way to get out of this attack unharmed unless he dodged. When Sakura had gotten close to Itachi she did the same as last time and released a chakra-powered punch at Itachi, hitting him directly in the face. His face should have been broken, but instead she went right through him and punched the ground in front of the real Itachi because she had attacked an illusion. Using the opportunity Itachi jumped out of the ground and stood in front of Sakura, running through several hand seals, getting ready to incinerate Sakura, but he heard something that defined doom for him. You're within my range of divination, the voice came from behind him. Akirakujian Sho, 8 trigrams 64 palms, Hinata said as she ran towards Itachi. Then she started her assault. 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. 64 palms, but she didn't finish it there. This is for using Naruto. 8 trigrams 128 palms. 128 palms, and with that she sealed all of Itachi's chakra points. Itachi fell down after that attack and his image started to disappear. What was left was Insune a civilian, judging by the clothes he was wearing. Everyone gathered around the body that was left behind. Chio had a closer look at him before saying. I know him. He was part of our council. His name is Yura. We can't just leave his body here, we must take it back for his friend and family. Kakashi nodded and took out a sealing scroll and a body bag, then started to seal him into it. Wow, Hinata. That was amazing. I mean, you've never showed that last attack during training and you defeated Itachi single by yourself with that. Kiba complimented. I didn't do that much. If it wasn't for everyone weakening him, then that attack wouldn't have worked. And Kiba, I didn't show the 8 trigrams 128 palms during training because I was working on it secretly and also because it is a really dangerous taijutsu to try out on friends. She said. But Sakura had different thoughts about who defeated Itachi. No. Kiba is right. I didn't even do much, after 3 years of training I finally thought I was strong, but look at me. I fell for the most simplest bunshin and allowed Itachi to escape from the mud that Kakashi trapped him in. Sakura said. Yeah, you're right, Hinata said, shocking most the people around her. But if it wasn't for you, the Itachi wouldn't have been in the position to be taken down. Overall it was a team victory. Hinata stated confidently, while Kiba and Akamaru cheered for that. Sakura started to feel a bit better about that, but she was making plans about learning Jinjutsu, so after this mission, she would ask Kurane-sensei if she could learn Jinjutsu from her. Meanwhile, Shino was in the forest that was burned down to see if there was any of his comrades that survived. Kurane just smiled at how Hinata was trying to make Sakura feel better and how much Hinata has grown out of the shy little girl that she once was. Once Kakashi had finished sealing Yura, he gathered everyone to discuss about the next step. Okay team. We will move out immediately because, like Shino explained earlier, we are definitely close to their hideout and they haven't finished extracting the Ichibi, which is why they sent Itachi to stall for time. So if anyone is injured, then either Hinata or Sakura will heal you. Once everyone is fixed, we are leaving. Akatsuki hideout. After Itachi's battle had finished, his mind went back to his real body, he then joined the rest at the hideout to seal the Ichibi. So did you eliminate the rescue team coming here? Questioned Pain. No. I underestimated them. Hinata Hyuga has grown more powerful than I thought and her mastery of the Byakugan is the best of her generation. Itachi said calmly, but all the Akatsuki members knew that if Itachi was praising someone, then their skills must be really good. This is why I should have gone. I could have eliminated them with just one of my art, said Deidara. However, Pain was not amused by this. The sealing will be interrupted soon and they don't even have the Ichibi sealed. Whilst he was deep in thought, the other member had joined them from his battle. Kisum, how did your battle go? Questioned Pain. My battle didn't go too well. I managed to weaken my guy though, he had to use 5 inner gates to defeat me, even then I wasn't losing much, but Sasuke hit me with a Chidori when I had my guard down battling guy. He said with a bit of anger because of how the battle turned out. It was supposed to be a battle against him and Guy, but that brat had intervened when he had his attention focused on Guy. At this, Pain got pissed. Not a single team was eliminated. At this rate they will interrupt the sealing and the Ichibi will be incomplete. He quickly started to devise a plan to counter the situation. Okay, Sasori and Deidara. He said in an authoritative tone, earning their attention quickly. You two will take care of the teams coming here. Zetsu said the Konoha's rescue team was coming here by following the Inizuka's nose, so you two will take a piece of cloth from the Ichibi's Jinchuriki and head to the valley towards the north of here, where you will fight and eliminate the rescue teams. I don't want to hear that you have failed this mission. Without being told twice, the two artists prepared to leave. Deidara used his jutsu to expand one of his small clay bird and got on it. Sasori used his tail to shred a big piece of cloth from Gaara's cloak, then calmly walked towards the exit. With Team 7 and 8. Jumping from tree to tree whilst hurrying through the forest was the rescue teams. After the battle with Itachi, everyone had decided to hurry because they had lost a lot of time with Itachi. As they were running, most of them sensed something coming from the east direction, so they were still going, but slowed down a bit and was prepared for anything. Then suddenly they heard it louder and closer, so they all stopped and decided to go to the ground where they can fight with more flexibility. Kakashi was about to ask Hinata to scan the area and look at who was coming towards them, but what he heard made him not ask her, because he heard lots of youth. Then through the opening to the forest they were in, Team Guy and Sasuke came in. Kakashi, my eternal rival. I see you have beaten me to our goal, this is why you are my rival. Shouted Guy. Let's have our competition some other time, right now we are dealing with the Akatsuki. Well, since we have all gathered here, I think we should form a strategy and go to their hideout as soon as possible. Said Kakashi in a serious tone. I also got more serious, and they started discussing the best possible way to deal with them. They also found out that Guy's team had to fight Kisame on their way here and how Sasuke had defeated him with a Chidori, and at that Sasuke smirked and it also boosted his arrogance. Kakashi told them that they had to fight Itachi, and at that Sasuke got angry because he wasn't there to kill his brother. Then he found out that like Kisame, Itachi was also a body being controlled. Sasuke got even more frustrated when he found out Hinata had defeated Itachi with her new Taijutsu, whilst everyone else was impressed, especially Neji, although he didn't show it. Eventually they came to a plan. Team 7 will get Gaara out of the hideout and take him to a safe place. They will be accompanied by Lady Chiyo. When they are at a safe place, Sakura and Chiyo will start to heal him, whilst Sasuke and Kakashi will guard them. Team 8 and Team Guy will deal with Sasori and Deidara. If there was anyone else, then Sasuke will back them up. So after their plan was devised, they all left to get Gaara. Akatsuki hideout. In the cave there was now 7 transparent figures sealing the Ichibi. Then the 8th member rose out of the floor in the middle. Pain-sama, Zetsu said desperately. All the members now turned their attention to Zetsu. The Konoha's teams are still coming here. For some reason, instead of following Sasori and Deidara, they haven't changed their destination. The scent doesn't lead to here either. I've already erased most of it that leads to here. Pain was not having a good day. First the teams arrive ahead of schedule, next Kisame and Itachi W got defeated easily. Now his plan wasn't going well and the Konoha's team was still headed towards here. Well, that leaves us with no other choice. We are going to have to evacuate. We already have most of the Ichibi's chakra, and also I would rather not show them how we extract the Biju or let them see any of our members for now. Zetsu tells Sasori and Deidara to come back and tell them to retrieve the Ichibi's Jinchuriki if possible. If they were to lose, then they are to stop the battle and get out of it alive. The rest of you already know which Biju you are after, so you know what to do. Pain finished and cut off connection with every member, so one by one everyone started to disappear. Then there was just him, Gaara and the Jito statue. He also made the Jito statue sink into the ground with his rippled eyes, and he left. The rescue teams. All the members had arrived on top of a cliff that stood opposite to the entrance of the hideout, only separated by a river running through the middle. They would have been happy, but the atmosphere didn't make them feel that way. The black mist that shrouded this place made it seem gloomy. We finally arrived, now let's go to save Gaara. Then we can go home. Kakashi said, trying to lift everyone's spirit a little. Man, I don't like this place. I don't like this mist at all, it doesn't feel comfortable. Kiba complained and Akamaru barked in response to say he agrees. My insects are also acting strangely to this atmosphere. They can sense that it has been made with chakra, but no ordinary chakra. They say it feels evil and perhaps more evil than the Kyuubi's chakra. Shino added. My Byakugan isn't working well either, I can't see past my own arm's reach. Neji said with a bit of annoyance in his voice. I can see just fine with my Sharingan. Sasuke said, insulting the others, whilst in a way insulting the clans themselves and showing why the Sharingan is superior to Jutsu. Neji was angry but decided to ignore Sasuke just like Hinata did. They soon arrived in front of the entrance and saw that there was a seal in front of it. Kakashi examined it and came to a conclusion. It's no ordinary seal, there is more seals in nearby and all of them has to be peeled off at the same time. However, we don't know where all the seals are and without the Byakugan we can't do anything about this. However, we don't have time for this, so I'll have to use one of my secret weapon. He said and put his hands in his pocket and pulled out a scroll. Most of people was excited to see what the secret weapon was and they all had a different idea in their mind. Kakashi unsealed his scroll and a plume of smoke enveloped the scroll. When it died down there was about 10 volumes of Icha Icha and they were all in mint condition. How is this a secret weapon, you pervert? Screamed Sakura. Whilst everyone had the same thought and Kurane was fuming, after all there is nothing she hates more than perverts and she was thinking of a way to destroy this rubbish. But some had other thoughts. Man, Kakashi-sensei even has the extended edition of volume 5 to 8, I have to read them somehow, thought Kiba whilst imagining what it was like. But he was brought back into the current world with a hard punch to the head by Hinata, who knew exactly what he was thinking. I agree with Sakura. How does this help, sensei? Hinata questioned. Meanwhile Kakashi was blushing so much he seemed to glow red. Wait. I have a seal that can drain chakra, it in this scroll because this is where all of my precious items are stored. The reason why it's in here is because there are only 2 of these seals, it was made by my sensei, the Yondaime, and only me and Jiraiya-sama has one. This is actually a seal that is too powerful, it can even drain the chakra of a Jinchuriki's chakra cloak. He said, hoping they would change the subject. Many was impressed at this. And this showed how skilled their Yondaime was in the art of sealing. Kakashi took out the seal, then sealed the rest of the items back into the scroll, then sealed the scroll into another scroll, then put it into his pocket hidden in the Jounin vest. He took the seal and placed it on top of the seal on the boulder and it started to glow blue. When it stopped glowing both of the seals came up and fell with the wind. Kakashi picked up his seal and put it into a pocket. Okay, now all we have to do is break the boulder, he said and looked at Sakura, to which she simply nodded. Sakura then punched the boulder with one of her super-powered punch and shattered the boulder like it was nothing. Everyone got prepared for a battle, however when they saw inside there was nothing. It was completely empty. In the middle was Gaara, who seemed to be suffering from something. Since it was empty, Sakura and Hinata ran to Gaara cautiously for any surprise attack, and since there wasn't any they immediately started their treatment. This seems too suspicious, said Kakashi. It doesn't matter though, everyone stay on their guard, he ordered. Everyone nodded and guarded the medics and Gaara whilst looking out for any signs of the enemy. Meanwhile, with Sasori and Deidara near the valley. At the opening to the valley just past the forest stood the two members who had been sent to deal with the Konoha teams who will arrive. I wonder what's taking them so long. When they arrive I will have to teach them why I hate to wait. Well then. I guess I can keep you two entertained in the meantime, spoke a voice coming from the forest. Deidara and Sasori then looked at the small figure that got bigger and bigger as it got closer, then he stood in front of them both. The masked shinobi. What if Naruto severs all ties with Konoha harem? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.